Well, hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I am a regular dude walking in the Word. Hey, I want to thank you for joining us as we are going. This is Sunday here, so we are doing Psalms on Sunday, and we call it Sunday in Psalms. We are in episode 38 today, so we are looking at Psalm 38, and it's entitled The Weight of Guilt. As we look at this, this particular psalm was written by David. He's talking about the guilt, and one of the key verses there is verse 4, where it says, "My guilt has overwhelmed me like a burden too heavy to bear." He's talking about all this guilt that's on him for all his sin. And in like verse 15, it says, "I'm troubled by my sin." This is a healthy thing, okay? To be faced with that guilt and then to be troubled by your sin, okay? Too many times nowadays we have thrown the guilt away and thrown the sin away, so there's nothing really for me to be saved from. We need to come back to the realization that I am a sinner, and then I need to face the guilt of my sin. That guilt needs to be real, and the guilt is what drives us towards Christ, okay? Because only Jesus can forgive that sin. All right, so it's part of the whole salvation process, but we've so often we've short-circuited the whole salvation process by denying there's any guilt and then denying there's sin in my life. Oh, I'm just a perfect guy. I'm so glad God could use me. No, I'm a sinner, and I was saved as a wretched sinner, and I still sin, but God saved me from that sin. Okay, so where we get into trouble is when then we start going oh yeah, I'm just a perfect guy here. No, I'm a sinner. And once you make that step into oh, I'm just a perfect guy, you're in for a hard fall later on. So let's read. This is Psalm 38, and it says this: "Lord, do not rebuke me in your anger, or discipline me in your wrath. Your arrows have pierced me, and your hand has come down on me. Because of your wrath there is no health in my body. There is no soundness in my bones because of my sin." Okay? "My guilt has overwhelmed me like a burden too heavy to bear." Why is David talking about all this stuff is happening to him, all this guilt is coming down upon him? He says it right here. There's no soundness in my bones because of my sin. This is all because of my sin, okay? That David's this just is all too much for me. All this guilt that I have is because of sin. It's not from anything else. It's because of sin. Verse 5, "My wounds fester and are loathsome because of my sinful folly." Here we go again. My sinful folly. He's wounded and they fester because of my sinful folly. "I am bowed down and brought very low. All day long I go about mourning. My back is filled with the searing pain. There is no health in my body. I am feeble and utterly crushed. I groan in anguish of heart. All my longings lie open before you, Lord. My sighing is not hidden from you. My heart pounds, my strength fails me. Even the light has gone from my eyes. My friends and companions avoid me because of my wounds. My neighbors stay far away. Those who want to kill me set their traps. Those who would harm me talk of my ruin. All day long they scheme and they lie. I am like the deaf who cannot hear, like the mute who cannot speak. I have become like one who does not hear, whose mouth can offer no reply. Lord, I wait for you. You will answer, Lord, my God. For I said, do not let them gloat or exalt themselves over me when my feet slip. For I am about to fall, and my pain is ever with me. I confess my iniquity. I am troubled by my sin." This is a whole turning point, okay, here, with this guilt coming on him, and he says, I confess my iniquity, right here in this verse 18. I am troubled by my sin, okay? Again, where we get into trouble is if we are, know we're a sinner, but we're not troubled by our sin. We just oh, this is just who I am, but we need to be troubled by our sin. Verse 19, "Many have become my enemies without cause. Those who hate me without reason are numerous. Those who repay my good with evil lodge accusations against me, though I seek only to do what is good. Verse 21, Lord, do not forsake me. Do not be far from me, my God. Come quickly to help me, my Lord and my Savior. Okay? So David is talking about, he talks about, his guilt of his sin, but then he talks about how the enemy is after, coming after him. But then he ends there in verse 20 and 22 with, Lord, do not forsake me. Do not be far from me, my God. God's the only one that can save him, okay? Especially from sin. There's no one else that can take away my sin. And then verse 22, come quickly to help me, Lord, my Savior. My Lord and my Savior, okay? So David ends this with saying, come and help me, not just God, but he says, my Lord and my Savior, okay? Two things there with God. So it's a whole, this is like a whole picture of salvation. David is bothered by the guilt he has, and the guilt is from his sins. And then, he knows the enemy's after him, but then he says in verse 18, I'm troubled by my sin, okay? If we're not troubled by our sin, something's wrong there, okay? But then to say there at the end, come quickly to help me, my Lord and my Savior. David is saying, God, you're my Lord and my Savior. There's no other Savior. It's just God and Jesus. All right, so that concludes that the weight of guilt. The weight of guilt should be a natural thing that happens in our salvation experience. Hey, thanks for watching as we go through Psalms every Sunday here. And we're going through Leviticus here during the week right now. So join me tomorrow as we jump back into Leviticus. Lord's blessing. I'll see you then.